The social value of identifying people who are different or wrong and removing them from society increased, and more people found it pleasurable to do so. Minasan konnichiwa, and welcome to Let's Ask Shogo. On August 24th, 2021, a gang leader who was charged with crimes and murder for a number of attacks on ordinary citizens was sentenced to death. This event has brought the topic of Japan's capital punishment system back into the spotlight. While there is a worldwide movement to abolish the death penalty, why is it continued to be used in Japan? So today, I will explain about the history of the capital punishment system in Japan and how the sentence is carried out. After that, I will talk about why Japan cannot abolish the system. By watching this video, you will not only learn about the social structure of Japan, but will also gain a better understanding of the values of Japanese people. I know this is a very complicated topic, but it'd be great if you can share your thoughts on the capital punishment system in the comments after watching this video. I would love to learn more about your opinions. In this channel, you can take a closer look at Japanese traditional culture, tips on traveling to Kyoto, and social problems in Japan. So learners and lovers of Japanese language and culture, be sure to subscribe to enjoy more content. それでは本日も参りましょう。First, let's talk about how the capital punishment system works in Japan and how executions take place. Japan's capital punishment system is said to have existed from the early 5th century. In the past, the methods of capital punishment included beheading, strangling, burning, crucifixion, and seppuku, but these obviously cruel methods were abolished in the modern era. Currently, Article 11 of the criminal law specifies that capital punishment in Japan must be carried out by hanging. There are 7 prisons with hanging facilities in Japan: Sapporo, Miyagi, Tokyo, Nagoya, Osaka, Hiroshima, and Fukuoka. Those who have been sentenced to death are scattered and housed in each detention center. Since March 1993, 133 have been executed, and there are currently more than 100 people on the death row. Most of them are guilty of murder. The criteria for the sentence is based on a number of factors, including the number of victims, the planning and brutality of the crime, and the judgment of the judge and jury at that time. Therefore, there is no clear standard of judgment that says, if this happens, you will definitely be sentenced to death or not. By the way, there is no life imprisonment in Japan. Instead, there is a system of unlimited imprisonment called muki choeki in Japan. The biggest difference between imprisonment for life and the Japanese unlimited imprisonment is that for the latter, if certain conditions are met after 10 years of imprisonment, the prisoner can be released back into society in the form of parole. Next, I'll explain about how the capital punishment is actually carried out in concrete terms. Those who have been sentenced to death are kept in solitary confinement in jail and are not allowed for any contact with other death row prisoners. The number of visitors and correspondents is extremely limited, and all of them are witnessed and recorded by the guards. The execution will be carried out suddenly one day. The death row inmate is not informed in advance until about an hour before the execution, and the guard informs them that the execution is about to take place. The family members of the executed prisoner will be notified of the fact after the sentence is carried out. The inmates are taken to the hanging room in the detention center, where they are told to stand with a rope around their neck on a floor with squares drawn on, like this. The room is like a 2-story cabin, and the floor falls open, causing the inmate to die under his own weight. This happens once multiple facility staff members each press a button at the same time, one of which leads to the floor to fall open. Then next, let's talk about today's main topic, why Japan continues to have the capital punishment system. Today, more than 70% of countries around the world have abolished it. Why can't Japan do so too? Out of the many different opinions and theories, I would like to introduce the two that I found through my studying. One, the Supreme Court has determined that it is not unconstitutional. Two, most citizens support the capital punishment system. 1. The Supreme Court has determined that it is not unconstitutional. Article 36 of the Japanese Constitution, enacted in 1946, prohibits cruel and inhumane punishments. You might be thinking that the capital punishment is exactly the cruelest form of it. But in 1948, the Supreme Court made a decision that the capital punishment system is constitutional, stating that it cannot be considered to be an immediately cruel punishment. In other words, in Japan, the judiciary clearly acknowledges that the capital punishment is a reasonable punishment. 2. Most citizens support the capital punishment system. The main reason why the capital punishment system has not been abolished in Japan is that the people don't want it to be abolished in the first place. In a public opinion poll conducted by the Cabinet Office in 2014, it was found that 9.7% of the respondents answered that the capital punishment should be abolished, while 80.3% of the respondents thought that it was necessary. The main arguments of those in favor of the capital punishment are the following. 1. People who have killed others should pay for it with their own lives. 2. It is necessary due to the feelings of victims and bereaved families. 3. The capital punishment serves as a deterrent against vicious crimes. However, it is not difficult to counter these claims. Opinions like they killed someone so they should be sentenced to death, and we feel sorry for the bereaved family, are both emotional arguments that are not logically reasonable when discussing the legal system. Also, there is no proof that the capital punishment works as a deterrent against crimes. In fact, many of the criminals in recent indiscriminate murders have stated that they wanted to be executed for killing people, which means there is a possibility that the system may actually be increasing the number of violent crimes. However, whether the reason is an emotional one or not, the fact that more than 80% of the citizens approve of the capital punishment is very influential in a democratic country. Politicians and judges who want to abolish the capital punishment system will not be elected by the people. So of course, politics will not be directed in that direction. So then, why do most Japanese people emotionally approve of the capital punishment system? Please understand that the theory I'm about to explain is purely my own opinion based on personal research of various studies. I think it has to do something with the psychology of Japanese people, which I explained in my older video, Why You Must Be Normal in Japan. It is a psychological phenomenon called the justice addiction, which is explained by a psychologist in this book. It is said that all human beings gain psychological pleasure when correcting what is wrong, or in other words, correcting what the majority thinks is wrong. This is because we are social animals, and we feel satisfied when we feel worthy of our existence. However, it is said that this psychology works more strongly in Japanese people than in other countries, and that many Japanese are addicted to it. This is because Japan is an island nation with various natural disasters. Japan is merely 0.28% of land on Earth, but it has 7% of all active volcanoes, 10% of all earthquakes, 20% of all earthquakes stronger than magnitude 6.0, average of 26 typhoons passing near or over every year, average of 2,000 landslide disasters every year. The only way to endure such natural disasters is for everyone to cooperate and help each other. In other words, anyone who acted self-centered or selfishly in the social group was immediately eliminated. because their existence would be a great risk to everyone in emergencies. The social value of identifying people who are different or wrong and removing them from society increased, and more people found it pleasurable to do so. For these reasons, the Japanese people have formed a collectivist society, a culture in which each person hides his or her true feelings and lives to be invisible as possible. Of course, no one wants to be that someone who will be kicked out of society. In other words, many Japanese people cannot forgive people who have once committed a crime because they are afraid of accepting them back into society again, and they feel that criminals deserve to be punished severely. What do you think about my opinion? Please let me know in the comments. Then lastly, today's conclusion. Currently, Article 11 of the criminal law specifies that the capital punishment in Japan must be carried out by hanging. There are 7 prisons with hanging facilities in Japan, and those who have been sentenced to death are scattered and kept in solitary confinement in each detention center. The death penalty will be carried out suddenly one day, without formal notice until 1 hour before the execution. The 2 reasons why Japan continues to have the capital punishment system are: 1. The Supreme Court has determined that it is not unconstitutional. 2. Most citizens support the capital punishment system. The reason why Japanese people emotionally approve of the capital punishment system is because they have developed a culture of collectivism through the environment of various natural disasters. Many Japanese people cannot forgive people who have once committed a crime, and they feel that criminals deserve to be punished severely. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If this video helped you to deepen your understanding towards the social structure of Japan and the values among Japanese people, please hit the like button to help me boost this video to more people. And our goal is to achieve 1 million subscribers by January 2023, so your help would mean a lot. And please check out our sub-channel and membership through the link inside the description box. Thanks again, and I'll see you in my next video. どうもありがとうございました。To be very honest with you, before I did studying for this video, I was definitely one of the 80.3% of Japanese people who supported the death penalty. I think people around me, including my parents, my relatives, were all people, if we ever have a chance to talk about it, they would probably be supporting it too. Again, 80%, right? But after studying about it, especially like this book that I read was against the death penalty in Japan. And also as I said in today's video too, I talked about and introduced some of the crimes that are actually happening because the criminals want to be sentenced to death by the capital punishment, you know. And that is actually, especially for me who have two daughters, that these murders tend to go to preschools and kindergartens to kill kids because that's easier than trying to end the lives of adults, right? So considering that, I personally think that the capital punishment system in Japan is actually making the situations worse. So right now, after making this video and studying, I personally am now against the capital punishment system in Japan.